Greetings, heathens and heretics, and welcome to what I believe is, or what feels like, the first normal episode we've done in about a month, I think, isn't it? It's been a busy October, to say the least.
Thereabouts, yeah.
Yeah.
This month has killed me. I'm supposed to be an old fart, and it's like I've been gallivanting around like Willy Fogg.
Oh, well, that's a statement. That's one for the kids. So yeah, it has been a busy month. We are kind of a little bit back to normal now. We've done a couple of album reviews, and we've had a fair few gigs to go to in October. So we're going to go back over the month, do what we normally do, some of our favorite releases, but mainly we're going to talk about the gigs we went to because a couple of them were pretty memorable, and our very own Voice of Reason has actually had a bit of an international flavour as well this month. So check us out with a bit of fucking foreign culture. But we'll come back to that. We may as well start right at the beginning of the month. We have already talked about it a couple of times, to be fair, which was the Municipal Waste Tour. But that's all finished now. The tour's done and dusted. I think it was largely sold out. I think most dates, or if not sold out, they were pretty much sort of 90-95%, which is great to see. A band coming over doing sort of 14, 15 dates and filling every venue. But that feels like a lifetime ago. That as well. It's a month ago today, isn't it? Yeah, it is a month ago today.
Pretty much a month ago. Yeah, we took you, me, and Bean took a car down to Bristol, and we met up with Nige.
We found a Gav.
Dave from Black City, Gav, obviously, yeah, and obviously then we caught up with Ryan before the gig, before we saw the band, and yeah, we watched it. It was Gel, Undeath, and Municipal Waste,
which was nice.
Overall, it was a good gig. I think we all had complaints or concerns about the sound.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
I mean, I've joined the earplug brigade these days because I think I'm definitely noticing a difference, and I think I can tell when it makes it more easy to tell when sound is good, when it still sounds good through the earplugs.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, then that's a bad sign. And yeah, in that regard, it wasn't great, but you know, all the songs are recognisable. God knows how much energy they all slayed. They all gave it their full whack, and that's what you want. And I mean, you know, it's nice to get away somewhere a bit different and go somewhere that you're unfamiliar, and you know, make a day of it.
Yeah, that's true. The venue was quite interesting. One at the Marble Factory in Bristol. Never been there before. It is as it says on the tin. It is an old factory, a tile factory, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And it was quite sort of spread out. There were several different rooms and whatnot. There used to be a festival there about 10 years ago called Temples Festival. But it is a shame the sound was a bit iffy because I really liked the venue. It was a bit different. The bar area was really nice and open, wasn't it? No matter where you went, it didn't feel crowded, did it?
Well, that's it. The venue part was in one section, and that's it. Yeah, everyone was in there to watch the bands.
Yeah.
And then the big room next door was basically the bar and the merch stall. And so people were able, you know, not only have the space to buy beer and whatnot without being too slow and too many queues. You have the opportunity to stand around and mingle with space and go outside for a fag and
outdoor space as well, which is unusual.
You know, and swing a cat.
You could swing several cats.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and in that regard, it was a great little venue. So
it was. And a shout out to Black City Records as well, who took money off us. It just turned us upside down and emptied our pockets, basically. So
yeah,
it's bad. But yeah, that was a fun one. That, like I say, despite the sound, it was. I really enjoyed Gel. You know, I sort of hadn't heard of them all that much before that tour. Checked them out, really liked them. But I thought live they were really good, really full of energy. Like the songs, I've got into them quite a bit since. So fair play to them.
Yeah, lots of energy there. And you know what? It shocked me, but I honestly didn't recognise the guitarist who you said was formerly of Symposium. Was it Symposium?
It looked like it, didn't it? It wasn't him. It just
it wasn't. Oh, okay, right. Scratch that.
Symposium, and he was in. I know what you mean. He was in Hell is for Heroes as well, wasn't he? Look, he was spitting image.
Oh, right,
spitting image.
Right.
But he's mistakes. But Undeath, I wasn't so. I don't know. I kind of get it, but I kind of don't. It's sort of old school death metal. They went down well, you know. The place seemed to really be into them, but I'm fussy with death metal anyway. They just don't really float my boat.
No, I'm afraid I'm with you there. No, I mean they've got a fan base. They seem to have that appeal to people. But yeah, like I say, I'm not a huge death metal advocate either, so I can't really um, get into them in that regard.
Yeah. But they were pretty good live. They had a presence, so fair play. Overall, it was it was a good gig and it was a good tour. So, and look, we've seen Municipal Waste loads of times before, so it's they always deliver the goods, always.
Yeah.
And look, they're our age and maybe a little bit older in some places as well, and still got unbelievable levels of energy. To be able to do that every night is crazy. So yeah, fair play. That was good fun. Let's dig into a couple of albums, shall we? What have you got top of the list for last month? What tickled your fancy?
Oh, well, I think we'll start early on actually, because I think we want to maybe sort of leave the best till last. I think because it could be a bit of a conversation, really.
Yeah.
So let me talk about Svalbard first.
Yeah.
I think because that came out at the beginning of the month, and that's the fourth album, The Weight of the Mask, which came out, fun enough, the day we were driving down there, October the 6th, on Nuclear Blast. And as it is, I actually picked it up on vinyl from Rough Trade the following day. So making sure I got that. Yeah, so I mean, we both like this band. Also, we had Serena. Serena was the first person to grant us an interview on this podcast. So
she was indeed. Yeah, she was
out there. And we've looked forward to this album, haven't we? The term black gaze is what's been thrown about, which, I mean, Christ, there's all sorts of words there. But listening to this album, it does make sense because you've got that black metal tremolo guitar sound going on there, and there is obviously the black metal gutturals that Serena favours, but you've got those moments of serene beauty and swampy sort of production.
Steady on.
That is it is absolutely reminiscent of My Bloody Valentine and Cocteau Twins and whatnot.
That's a good shout. Yeah,
and you've got that blend, but they favour that sort of naughty sound, that but post metal sound. But we got from Deftones, certainly around the time of their 2003 self-titled album, but also bands like Devil Sold His Soul, and yes, even Maid when they were at it. And this is a damn good solid album. There's accessibility there. I think the two lead singles they released to begin with. First one being "Faking It," which opens the album. You've got all those dynamics there, and a real massive bit of melody going into the chorus. And "To Wilt Beneath the Weight," which again it's got the same sort of things going on, but more impact. And you've got in between this up and down, this flow, this ebb and flow that sort of takes you through all that heaviness, that intensity, that breathing, as it were. They've given us another good album, but it is a bit of a grower. It's immediate in places, but it's not one that's going to, I think, be quickly accessible. Because they're not a catchy band in that regard.
No.
So I would always say people give it a bit of time. And I know I'm not so keen on being told that myself, but I think their sound is what I think can bring you in, because they've got those feet in sort of two distinctive areas.
Do you think now is the sort of point in their career where they're on what is considered a major, not a major label, but certainly a major metal label in Nuclear Blast, and now is their sort of time to make the next step? They've been around for over a decade now, and this album it's a lot more polished in terms of production than it from previous work. There's a big difference there. It just sounds like it's the next step for them now, and they could potentially, be quite big over the next sort of 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, absolutely.
If things fall right for them, kind of thing.
Yeah, if they get the right sort of gigs and I think the right tours, they could. But I think with a band like that, I can understand they don't want to, I don't want to say sell out, but kind of deviate from what they're doing, because they do this well. I don't want them to become just another anthemic band because they can do melody and choruses quite well. They've got to maintain their own path and their own speciality and just push it a little bit more sort of that way.
Yeah.
But I don't see, the thing is, I don't see why they can't do well with what they're doing, because you look at a band like Deftones.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be a good support for them, I think. A band like Deftones in sort of larger academy-sized venues, smaller,
yeah,
maybe that would work for them.
And it's interesting because we know, Deftones, they've got a widespread appeal. I mean, they cultivated a sort of mini festival, I think, just before COVID, and they co-headline that with churches.
Yeah. Well, most definitely not a metal band.
No, who not? But they've got that same sort of depth and integrity, as a lot of metal bands, and we know their flirtations with hip hop and rap and trip hop as well in their sound. So, and I think that maybe that's kind of a way to go for Svalbard in terms of sound, because there is an atmosphere there to what they do.
Yeah, they're a bit of a watch this space, I think, aren't they? Look, another British band as well. And, as I've said countless times through this year, it's been a really strong year for British heavy music. So, it's, but so one that I picked out from earlier in the month, completely on the other side of the tangent from Svalbard, Sadistic Force's second album, Midnight Assassin. First off, massive shout out for the artwork because it's fucking brilliant. But look, for those who don't know Sadistic Force, they are very much born out of We Love Motorhead, and we're going to do this kind of thing because we love Motorhead. They're a 3-piece. They make a lot of noise, but it's just old school, dirty, whiskey drinking, heavy metal. And it's nothing groundbreaking, but I must admit, I did really enjoy this album. I loved it. I've listened to it bundles of times. It's great in the car. It's thoroughly enjoyable. It's just slightly disappointing that to get the vinyl would cost about 55 quid, I think, to get it to the UK. Madness. I'm hoping there's going to be a UK distribution, but yeah, really good fun album. I don't know. What did you think of it?
I mean, I've given this a listen. I think overall it didn't really grab me enough. I mean, it's solid rock and roll, speed metal, but there's not, I suppose, I need a bit more than that, I think, really. And the songs didn't stand out ultimately to really pull me in. Having said that, I think if they were playing at a rock bar, I thought I'd certainly be banging my head.
Yeah,
I think it's
completely.
I think it's that kind of music that suits a particular environment quite well.
Someone like the Dev, someone like that would really work. It is without wanting to pigeonhole it, it's pub rock and roll heavy metal, in it. It's, no frills, just it's all good. Like, there's not much more you can say about it. It's a great fun album. If you like that kind of thing, you'll enjoy it. Going back to the gigs then, since we're talking about heavy and fast and sweaty and dirty, Hellripper and Celestial Sanctuary at the Black Heart, about 3 weeks ago now, 2 weeks ago.
1 week.
Tailgunner was last week.
2 weeks, 2 weeks.
Sort yourself out, man.
See this bloody month.
That was absolute carnage.
Yeah.
That gig, it really was. I mean, look, Hellripper could have played, they could have done the Underworld and it probably would have sold out anyway. 150 people in the Black Heart, I think it sold out in a week or so.
Yeah.
Like I said, if they'd done the Underworld, I think that would have sold out as well. They're probably too big for that venue, but it's just hot, sweaty, filthy. I think one of the fastest bands I think I've ever seen play live.
Yeah, no arguments there. I think I'm struggling to think of a faster band.
Yeah, just absolutely bonkers. But in terms of I saw Hellripper back earlier in the year with Warbringer. It's Toughen Apart Dome, which is a much bigger venue and a proper stage and all that kind of thing. But the Black Heart, for anybody who hasn't been there, is 150 capacity venue. You're right on the stage. It's hot, like I said, sweaty. It is very much a melting pot, isn't it? And being down the front against the stage, it was it was uncomfortable at times, but it was great fun.
I mean,
but the chemistry they've got with the crowd is so good.
I mean, for me, it's a bit disappointing because I was sort of at the back, because unfortunately Blackheart doesn't have a cloakroom. And I had my sports bag with me because I was sort of up in that neck of the woods for another gig on Sunday night. So I was sort of staying with friends, and so I had to kind of a little bit back in against the wall. But in some ways, I felt safe there because it looked dangerous down the front, and I thought, you know what, I'm a bit too old for that malarkey by this point. So people going over, stage diving, flinging themselves across, beer, just for lot. And of course, here's another fast one, and just kicking that off all over again. So probably, I think I made the right choice. But yeah, I mean, Christ, just full on, absolute. If you want your metal fast, that Hellripper is the band. And the thing is, like you say, there's a lot of accessibility there. There's some good choruses, some great tunes, solos going through the roof.
Yeah.
And of course, we've seen how they sort of push themselves on with the latest album and the melody, and even that stuff, which maybe is a little bit more restrained on record, was still fucking 200 miles an hour on live.
Yeah, and they played I Deceiver for the first time as well, which just sounded pure black metal, fucking evil. It was, they're another band. The next 12 months, they're doing festivals next year. They're doing Bloodstock next year. That's going to be huge for them, I think.
Yeah,
2,000 or 3,000 people in that tent watching them. That's going to be massive. And look, fair play to them. I think they're great. I think they've had a great year. The album's brilliant. It's certainly in my top 10.
Yes, agreed.
Collectively, I can imagine it will be for all of us. Good luck to them. I hope they just get bigger and bigger. James is such a nice guy. We had him on the podcast earlier this year. He's great to talk to. Yeah, couldn't happen to a nicer bunch of lads. So, look, shout out to Celestial Sanctuary as well. I think I've seen them, 4 times this year, and they've always delivered the goods. So, looking forward to seeing them again on the 9th of December.
Oh, what's happening on the 9th of December?
I think it's at a tiny little place called Radio City Social in Chelmsford in lovely Essex. Celestial Sanctuary, All Father and Beyond Grace. What about that? And guess what? It's free.
Oh, I think I might have to go.
I think you should. I think that'd be a great idea. And if we can get around about another 50 people in that room, it'll be fucking brilliant. So, let's, as much as I love the place, let's just fucking destroy it. We can rebuild it again the next morning.
Yeah. I mean, there are trains going overhead, which might be a problem, but, I'm sure...
Well, let's just make it that fucking loud and that fucking raucous that the trains have to stop and it won't matter anymore. So get yourselves along to that. But yeah, great gig. Look, so you were up in London that weekend for another gig. You may as well talk about that because we're going off on a complete tangent now. So a bit of a little bit of an antidote to what you had on the Friday night.
A little bit, yeah. I went to the Scala with my mate Rich to see a chap called Ollie Ride. So for those of our listeners who are quite familiar with their synthwave as much as I am, he's a singer who does a lot of collaborations with various synthwave artists, namely FM84. But he favours the more sort of accessible sunshine, driving down the Pacific Highway with a sunset in your sort of back, kind of 80s movie kind of vibe. Not so much the dark synth stuff or the more metal sort of friendly stuff. This guy is very, very pop in a lot of ways. And he did his own album as well in 2019 called Thanks in Advance, which is, again, it's an 80s pop album. So, big choruses, big production, very impassioned and whatnot, but real big colourful vibes. And he's got his next album out in the spring, which we're all really looking forward to. And yeah, he does these small tours here and there. He did some gigs in America, and he came back just to do the Scala, which was sold out, albeit it was a bit reduced in size. But it was sold out as the capacity they allowed it. And I love my metal. I love the aggression and the darkness and all that. But I grew up with 80s pop, and that's kind of, when it comes to sort of upbeat, positive sounding music, I'm kind of a bit limited, but I will stick my 80s pop all day long. And this was such a great gig to go to because the vibes were just positive. It was just people, mostly probably my age or a bit younger. A few people who are a bit older and who are around in there, and a few kids as well. There are a few young people who have latched onto this stuff, and it was just nice to be with a bunch of people just singing pop songs that kind of only we knew, really, with big choruses, big vibes. I mean, this chap, he's a showman. He had these sort of sequined suits, and then did a sort of costume change for the encore, and did some other bigger songs.
And no Satan worshipping or anything like that.
Absolutely nothing like that. No, I mean, it's I would say, look, if you like 80s pop, if you're sort of our sort of era, and again, we're going to talk about this a bit later, but if you love all the 80s pop stuff, that's the stuff you grew up with as well as the rock, you got to check out Ollie Ride, because he deserves to be so much bigger than he actually is. He's got a very cult fan base, and he's got, if you play this stuff to a lot of people, I basically gave my album to my sister, who got me into 80s pop, and she loved him.
Yeah.
And, it just frustrates me that because what he does isn't marketable for the pop charts, because it's a very, very retro kind of style of music that isn't very now, but it's very good at what it does. And it's
it's not very now, though. I mean, 80s is really popular at the minute anyway, and has been for a fair few years now. But you think some of the shit pop music there is around these days that is popular, and you got stuff like that, and like artists like Gunship as well, another one. It's hugely accessible. It is frustrating as to why they're not more popular than they are on the mainstream.
I think it's more, yes, there's 80s-ish stuff out there, but it's more the sort of subtle influence kind of thing. I think a lot of labels don't want to go full on 80s because
it's fair.
Past, isn't it? We can't. How can we market that stuff to kids? We got to give the kids their own stuff these days. But it's frustrating because it's like, well, hang on a minute. Adults like pop music, and adults can listen to stuff easily on the internet just like that. It's not like the old days where they'll listen to Stop the Pops and then moan about what's new. So yeah, it's hugely frustrating that him and a lot of those other artists are not bigger than they are. But yeah, this might be one of my favourite gigs of the year, I think, because it was just so refreshing and just so nice just to sing and just soak up these just great vibes from a guy who just loves what he does. And yeah, I'd absolutely recommend that if you grew up with 80s pop like I did, or inclined to that stuff, please check him out.
There you go. See, we don't just talk about metal. We have got, and there's more of that to come as well in a minute.
Oh yeah.
We'll go quickly step on a couple of other albums then. Well, this isn't an album as such. This was a split EP, and one that kind of caught me by surprise. This was Dream Unending and Worm did a split EP. I say EP, it's 5 songs. It's 45 minutes long, so it's not really much of an EP. It's called Star Path, and look, I'll compare this slightly to Tomb Mold, their new album that came out last month, which I absolutely fucking adore, and it walked into my top 10. Not my thing at all. In a nutshell, progressive death metal and many, many other things with jazz and blues and all sorts of shit going on. And Dream Unending and Worm I already liked. Dream Unending I have struggled to get into, but for some reason, the 5 songs on this split, again, like that Tomb Mold album, for some reason, first listen, bosh, flicked my switch. And it just shouldn't, because it just isn't up my street. I'm not, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I'm not a prog fan. And death metal I'm really fussy about, but for some reason these 3 bands over the last 2 months have really done it for me. And yeah, really enjoy this. It's hard for me to describe because I'm not all that familiar with Dream Unending. I've only listened to bits and pieces, so I'm kind of coming at it from a bit of a blind point. But I don't know if you listen to it much, but I fucking loved it. Long songs, brutally heavy at times. There's jazz in there, like I said, there's blues in there. There's all sorts going on. It's very hard to describe, but I absolutely loved it.
Well, I mean, I've only given it one listen, and again, I should point out, I was the opposite with Two Mold, so but
Yeah.
that's how it is. I I want to listen to this again, quite simply. Straight off the bat, it's got this sort of 70s psychedelic thing going on
Yeah.
against that death metal riffage. Not exactly. I'm not exactly going to say it's original because Opeth, very old school Opeth.
Yeah.
But unlike Two Mold, for me, there was a real good blend of what they were doing, and I think the psychedelic sounds they're pulling were quite organic.
Yeah.
But there was enough melody there to pull me in. What I found from the bat, well, certainly with Dream Unending, who again I've not listened to before, they reminded me of Goblin.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's always going to pull me in because I listen to a lot of Goblin. And for anyone who isn't aware, Goblin were an Italian prog rock band from the 70s and 80s. They scored a lot of Italian horror movies. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. And there was that sort of vibe, but there's a lot of beauty there as well as, weirdness and evil sort of going about. And yeah, throughout those couple of long songs, you've got that blend of psychedelic prog and death metal, but there's melody there and there's spacious kind of beauty going on. And I felt, you know what, in some ways, much like Cult of Luna, I could sit here and listen to it and chill out to it.
It was definitely more accessible than the Two Mold album, 100%.
Yeah.
There is more melody to it. There's sort of clean vocals and everything in there, which the Two Mold album didn't have. So I think that's the difference, isn't it?
And I know there are people. I've seen people on Twitter, raving about their previous album last year. So I'm going to have to dig in. Yeah,
definitely. Like I said, I have listened to Dream Unending before, but again, like we often are with music these days, you listen to it for 30 seconds and go, "Nah, that's not my thing. It's not for me." So I think I may have done that, but because this grabbed me quite quickly, it was easier to get my head around it. So yeah, listen to it more. I think I'm going to have to pick it up on vinyl so I can sit down and listen to it properly.
Yeah, but that's a vinyl album. Yeah, I mean, Worm as well. Sounds. Yeah. You recommended Worm a while back, and I still haven't got around to checking them out, so that's on me. But yeah, again, Worm was a bit different. It was a bit more understated in terms of production, had a bit more rawness and whatnot. But it seemed to sort of it was very minimalist in its approach, but again, similar in its ambition. But by the end of their part of the album, we're sort of balancing psychedelic death metal and basically classic heavy metal.
Yeah, it's all in
sky-reaching solos, galloping riffs. There's a bit of a combination there, and it's like, there's a lot of melody there and a lot of things to drag me in. So, yeah, I'm glad I listened to this album and actually gave it a go because, I will come back to it.
Yeah, 100%. It's a good one. What else you got on the list? What else we got?
I want to give a shout out to the next album. Actually, this was a bit of a surprise one that dropped on social media. K-Man doing his thing. And I thought I'd give this a go because, right up my anyway, German heavy metal. There's been a lot of German heavy metal in recently, and a lot of it's all right, standards and whatnot. But straight off the bat, this pulled me right in. The band are called Thriller, and the album's called Street Metal. Yeah, exactly. The album's called Street Metal. It came out in mid-August. I don't think there's a label because I've been looking on their socials and whatnot, and there's no reference to a label, so it must have been self-released.
Yeah, I think it was self-released, wasn't it? Yeah.
There you go. So if that's wrong, by all means, please send all abuse to the usual address. But I think it's self-released. Look, I can't really say much here apart from this is basically classic German heavy metal with lots of melody, lots of sleek 80s production. Tracks like Iron Goddess, Spikes and Leather,
of course,
Proud to be Different, Cities on Fire. It feels like a combination of sort of Judas Priest, sort of flitting between Defenders of the Faith and Turbo, and a bit of classic Helloween.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
And I don't, I can't really say anything more than that because that's really fundamentally what it is. But they got the songs.
Yeah.
And they got the sound and they got the attitude. And it's just a great classic heavy metal album that I think everyone should give a go.
Yeah, I agree. I've only listened to it a couple of times, but it's a lot of fun. Shocking album cover though. That's
yeah. I mean, it's
that doesn't do it any justice. But
are they tires? Are they rings? What are they?
I think they're wheels. It obviously relates to the street metal, which again is not a great name for an album, but none of that really matters because it's just good fucking fun. Yeah. It's what we want from heavy metal, really. In that sort of truest sense of the term.
Absolutely.
Heavy metal. A great name for a band as well. To be fair, Thriller. I think that's. Yeah, I think they can go places with that. But look, a lot of fun. What else have we got? We'll go over another album. Something that came my way almost a little bit by accident. I didn't really clock it myself, but they reached out to us, and I had to give it a listen. A band called Cult Burial. They're British. The album's called Reverie of the Malignant, and it's again, let's go subgenres. It's black and death, if you want to call it that. Bit of Celtic Frost going on. Fucking great, really fucking good, really heavy, savage. It was aggressive. It's got all that dark, moody atmosphere that you want from that kind of thing. But for a British band that I'd never heard of a month or so ago, I was really impressed by this. And I think it's another one of those things that, in an age where metalheads are listening to more and more extreme music and more extreme metal, bands like this need to get an opportunity, I think, because it was really good. And first listen, I was like, yeah, I like this. Then I listened to it again, and it's like, yeah, the more and more that this is really fucking good stuff. And it's a little bit hard to describe other than black and death. Like I said, there are links to a bit of Celtic Frost in there. There's black metal in there, classic black metal, classic death metal, lots going on. But if you're into it heavy, you've never heard of this band before, go and check them out because they're really fucking good. I don't know if they play live or not. If they do, I'd like to catch them live. The vinyl is only, I think, 17 quid from their Bandcamp. It's a really nice pink vinyl. And this album was recorded analog for vinyl, which that alone, I think they deserve a huge amount of respect for.
Yeah. No, that's impressive. Yeah.
That's something that you don't hear a lot of these days.
Yeah. But sadly, unfortunately, I can't add anything to the conversation. I've not been able to fit this album into my calendar this month.
Well, there's homework for you. Go away and
there you go.
And give it a go. And I will get my hands on the vinyl before they sell it out because that's an intriguing thing. Because I think these days, because all music or 99.9% of music is recorded digitally and then it's applied to vinyl, we don't really get that appeal. So I'm looking forward to sitting down and listening to it on vinyl and just giving it the full beans, I suppose. Yeah, something a bit different. Right, another couple of gigs then. 2 gigs, same night, 2 gigs one night, which was last Friday night, I think. I'm losing track. Yeah, last Friday night.
Yes.
So we were going to see Tailgunner at the Black Heart, another sold-out show. But before we did that, we popped around to the Dev to catch Parish, who were playing in there with Aggressive Perfector. I really like Parish. Very 70s style 3-piece. It was a bit of a Halloween-themed night that Mercenary Press had put on. Horror movie playing on a big screen in the background and all that.
Oh, yeah, a bit of a Blood on Satan's Claw there.
Yeah, so you had all of that, all very occultish. But first time I'd seen Parish, I wanted to catch them. What they do is very simple. It's 70s bluesy heavy metal kind of stuff. Thought they were really good. Really enjoyed them. Really strong songs. Bit disappointed they didn't have the vinyl there for sale because I'm dying to get my hands on that, but I can't find it anywhere. Crypt of the Wizard, if you've got any copies left, please let me know. I thought they were really good. Yeah, I don't know if they're much up your street, but I really enjoyed them. Really good fun.
Less up my street, I'm afraid, but certainly solid at what they were doing and good vibes, I think, for the night in question. So, good luck to them.
Strong look as well. Roll neck.
That's it. I mean, it's there was a turtleneck there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's if you're going to do it, do it properly, get the look. It's all good. But yeah, really enjoyed them. I'm hoping I'll catch them again at some point, and hopefully I can pick up the vinyl. So from there we went over back to the Black Art. Like I said, another sold out show. Tailgunner. We didn't catch any of the supports because we were flitting around Camden. But so we last saw Tailgunner back early days for them, I suppose, playing live when it was at the Dev.
Yeah.
And which was what 15, 16 months ago. It was summer
Yeah,
last year.
it was summer last year.
Yeah, so still very raw when it came to playing live. I think at that point they'd probably only paid maybe 10 shows, perhaps something like that.
Okay.
And in the last year or so, they've obviously played a lot more. They've been over to Germany as well. I've done a couple of festivals, and they've clearly come a long way since. What did you think?
Well, I mean, they're a machine at this point, aren't they?
Yeah,
they really are.
I think that's a fair point.
But they know what they've always known what they want to be and what they want to do and how they want to approach it. And the fact is, they're doing that now.
Yeah,
they've worked on that a lot to the point where they're a tight machine. Again, I don't know if it's the Black Heart, but they're a lot faster live than they are on record. But to be fair, they were deaf, so there is that.
Yeah.
It felt like there wasn't enough room for them to do what they wanted to do because it's so small at the Black Heart, and you've got two guitarists. You've got Zach and Rhea giving it all that with their solos and poses, and Bones is flinging his huge bass around and whatnot, and as for the vocals, it's like whenever he can fit on stage, he's having to get out front. So, but yeah, I mean, heavy fucking metal basically, and they've got it.
Yeah, they've got it in droves. I think they've got the songs, haven't they? That's the thing.
Yeah,
they've got the songs. We said when back earlier in the summer when they were on for a second time, and we went through the album track by track, and for a British debut album, it's probably the strongest debut of the year. It's certainly up there, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And where they've gone from, look, bringing in Rhea on guitar, second guitar player, the dynamic between the two of them, Rhea and Zach, was brilliant all the way through the night. It was proper old school twin guitar heavy metal, wasn't it? Maiden, Priest, and all those bands,
And you know what? It's clear Rhea was so happy to be there and be involved and all that. So I mean, they've absolutely done the right thing bringing her in. So
yeah, I think bringing in someone with that ability has helped, from what I could see, has helped push them on. All the there's a few stage props thrown in there as well, a few costume changes from Craig as well.
That's it. There was a lot of spikes at one point, wasn't there?
Yeah. I thought it was really cool. And look, we got to talk about the covers as well. Two of them in particular. They covered Painkiller.
Yeah.
And obviously they covered Dio. They closed their set with that. But to take on Ronnie James Dio and Rob Halford as a young metal vocalist is bold, to say the least. And I think they nailed it, didn't they?
Yeah.
Both of them. Absolutely.
That's it. They've got it. They've again, time machine, lots of practice, lots of perfecting it. So yeah.
The future's bright, I think. And again, a lot of their popularity may come on mainland Europe. I hope they get maybe Bloodstock or something like that next year, something that can give them a wider audience. Because they should appeal to all ages. Kids all the way up to to people in their 50s, 60s and beyond. It really shouldn't matter. They've got that cross appeal, and a debut album full of hit songs. They played the whole album. What did you think of the 9-minute song? I can't even remember what it's called.
Well, I mean, Rebirth.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, like I say, I mean, that's my favourite track on the album, and it was just it was epic.
Yeah,
epic. But it kind of it's always I was a bit frustrated because it feels like I think the Black Art's a bit too small for what they do, as I've sort of said. It's I think sound wise, it did feel a bit muddy sometimes because
it was definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see them in somewhere like the Underworld, whatnot, a very at minimum kind of thing. But yeah, I think Rebirth sounded immense.
Yeah.
So, and you can the difference between that and where they started, see how the album, elevates as they go through their songwriting history. And yeah, that bodes so well for the future.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, very promising. Looking forward to seeing what they do next. Right, before we do the headline album and the headline gig of the month, I'll quickly talk about one of my favorite albums of the month, Gravesend, Gowanus. I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it. Gowanus Death Stomp. A band I'd never heard of before sort of September. Didn't know who they were. If anybody's ever been to Gravesend in Kent, this is probably the right kind of soundtrack.
Yeah, basically.
Filthy, crust punk tinged, gore, death, grind, whatever you want. It's all in there.
It's hardcore meets war metal.
Yeah, that's probably a good shout.
That's it.
Look, it is riff-tastic, I think is the way to look at this album. It's fast, heavy, aggressive, but it is just chock full of great breakdown riffs. And it helps with the dynamic, I think, because a lot of the album is just balls out, fast, heavy, aggressive. But all those breakdowns, they come in just at the right time. None of it seems contrived. It all just kind of it works as it should. And yeah, it's I think it might have just touched my top 20 for the year. I'm enjoying it. It's really fucking good. Really fucking good. And in terms of guitar sound, one of the best I've heard this year. It's got a proper crunch to it.
There's a distinctive, it's nasty. There's a nastiness to this album. I mean, this is a filthy sounding album. I can imagine Beandog just swimming in it at some point. It's got that sort of unpleasantness to it.
It's filth, absolute filth.
Yeah.
It's really
less
bad.
my thing, but I think they're doing something that to me sounds fairly unique. I can't think of any bands combining these things in this particular way and keeping that kind of vocal and whatnot. And again, it's 36 minutes or so. So again, it's not an album that outstays its welcome. It just, beats the fuck out of you and moves on.
Yeah. I think I can hear a little bit of Carcass in there in the mix, maybe, but it's hard to pin anything else on them. Like you say, there isn't really anything else around these days similar. So, yeah, look, I'm hoping they get over to the UK because I think live they should be pretty fucking savage. So look forward to that. But anyway, that's all the proper angry fucking heavy metal nonsense out of the way. The last two things we need to talk about: the most surprising album of the month that none of us saw coming, and Anthony's little soiree in Paris. So let's talk about the album first, because this has completely come out of nowhere, and I know there's other people that feel the same way about this, but look, I'll let you go because you brought it to my attention. Look, for a start, this is a band we'd heard of before, and this is like, just no. So why did you even listen to this in the first place?
It was mild curiosity because I was here on, I don't know, I think that's it. I don't think we were recording that night. So I was able to sit here on a Friday night and actually just sample a few of the tracks from various new releases that day. And one of the lists I sort of glance at just to see if there's anything poppy or indie that I'm familiar with and is worth checking out. Obviously mentioned this band. And I thought, oh God, they've released another album. Have they? They're still going? Because I didn't like this band. I was aware they released a couple of albums, but I'd only heard the first album and I didn't like them. It came out, 2017, I think, the first album. And,
about that, yeah, I think, yeah.
It's emo with a bit of goth. They felt like they sort of come way too late to that particular party and were trying to. It sounded like My Chemical Romance trying to do the Misfits, and it just sounded weak. I didn't like it. And it should have appealed to me. I'm okay with certainly My Chemical Romance, and I like the Misfits, and they had that sort of gothic horror punk aesthetic. And I was disappointed. I didn't like them, but there you go. Whatever. just moved on, and I haven't thought about them since. And I saw their name listed as a new album released, and I thought, you know what? Oh, let's see what they're like now, because maybe they're a bit better. So the band are Creeper, and the album is Sanguivore. I think it's pronounced. That's how I've been saying it. And yeah, they're on Spine Farm, and actually, there you go. It came out on Friday the 13th when we didn't record. So yeah, they got it. The first track I sampled was a song called "Cry to Heaven," and I can honestly say, after listening to it, I was sitting there in shock. How can I describe this song? It feels like the bastard son of the Lost Boys and the Top Gun soundtrack, but with this sort of underlying pulsating synth, sort of pushing it along, but with this lead riff that the Cult could have written at their best. And I
think that's pretty spot on.
And I was thinking, this is one of the best things I've heard in a long time in terms of accessible hard rock. And so I came on to the next single, I thought, which is called Teenage Sacrifice.
Teenage Sacrifice, yeah.
Teenage Sacrifice. And how can I describe this? It sounds like basically a very credible, I don't know, horror punk band have rewritten the Monster Mash. But as a big epic gothic horror punk rock, hard rock sort of song. So you know what? I'm listening to this album. They've earned the right for me to give them a go. And my God, what they've done is it sounds like they've basically dug up the corpse of Jim Simon, reanimated him, and just made the greatest album that he could have made ever. You've got, like I say, you've got touches of Misfits and stuff like that. But, there's times where, it sounds like Meatloaf. It sounds like Sisters of Mercy. It sounds like The Cult. It sounds like this massive Jim Steinman loving, and they've actually dedicated the album to him on the cover. Again, another one of the singles, you've got Black Heaven, which is this sort of almost synthesizer sort of pulsating, driving sort of track that sort of Sisters of Mercy meets Depeche Mode. It's dark, it's evil, it's sexy. And it's one of the greatest albums, I think, of this year. And I'm shocked. I'm genuinely shocked.
Yeah, you and me both. So from my point of view, I had a text from the Voice of Reason saying, bear with me, kind of give this a listen. I promise you it's worth a go. And I was like, look, I'd heard the first album. There was a couple of songs on it I actually thought were all right, but I hadn't heard anything since. Never listened to them, never given them the time of day. I was like, all right, fine. Next morning, commute to work, stick it on in the car. And by the time I'd got to work, I'd listened to 2/3 of the album, and I was like, fuck, this is just like completely screwed an end of year list, completely. And I don't think I've been hooked on a non-metal album, for want of a better term, for as much as I have with this for many, many years. Like I'm blown away by how much I like this album. It's just incredible. In terms of hooks and choruses, songs, it has got the fucking works. And I'm almost lost for words at how good this album is. It's.
I mean, they open, Further Than Forever. It's 9 minutes.
9 minutes as an opening song, yeah. Yeah.
And again, you got that sort of Meatloaf piano before again, it's just proper bat out of hell kind of dynamic and whatnot. And it's stuff like that. And then you got the Ballad of Spook and Mercy, which is the 4th track. And it's, it sounds like Tom Waits dragging Social Distortion slower moment through the mud.
And that's the thing with all of this going on, all that pomp and all that drama, there is still that sort of punk underpin is there, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can hear all that. There's a couple of moments in it I pick out bands like the Gaslight Anthem, which sort of caught me by surprise. But it's that whatever they do next, to go from what they were to what this album is, is this a complete shift in sound for them long term?
It's weird because it seems I kind of want to say it feels like they found their own identity, which is weird when a lot of the influences are so obvious too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, previously, yeah, they had basically one or two very limited influences, which I wasn't keen on. Now they got a load, which I am keen on, and they blend it all very well. But the fact is, this sounds so much more confident and assured that, you know, this is what they want to be doing.
Yeah.
It sounds like. You know, there are obvious comparisons to Ghost, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely in the mix.
In how they've changed and what they do and how they approach this kind of rock music. Absolutely. You know, I mean, they're playing, you know, fairly standard indoor venues this month. I mean, Shepherd's Bush Empire, for example. But I mean, you know, next year they could well be headlining Wembley Arena if enough people come on board. I mean, it's 42 minutes long, this album. It's not even that. You know, they could get away with, you know, shifting up to 50 minutes with a couple of extra tracks, but 42. I mean, Christ. I mean, that's perfect length.
I think we need to talk about the bass sound in particular. Yeah. One of the things that grabs me, how they've absolutely nailed that 80s bass guitar sound. It's just it's perfect, and it fits perfectly with the overall sound of the album. It's incredible. It's one of those albums, and I say this sincerely. It's one of those albums where I think a band strikes gold, and I'm not comparing it to, but look at stuff like Appetite for Destruction, when a band should, you know, they should have known, Guns N' Roses, when they recorded that, we've got something special. Now, while this is obviously in no comparison, certainly commercially or anything like that, it must be a similar moment. They must have listened to this and gone, fuck me, we've got some absolute bangers on the go here. Where did we find this from? You know, because it's such a shift.
It's alchemy. That's what it is. It's alchemy, musical alchemy. It's just got that to it.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. The artwork's great as well. The vinyl's really nice. It's a really nice sort of textured cover in it. It's
the music videos. I mean,
yeah. Style wise, they look brilliant. They just look amazing. The video for Teenage Sacrifice, it's just amazing. It's incredible. Go and watch it. It's all on YouTube. You know, we have put it out on Twitter, and it has been picked up by one or two people, and it has shocked. I think is the word.
I mean, I should be on commission, really, at this point.
I would like to catch them live. Now isn't the right time, but they're headlining that Takedown Festival in Portsmouth next year, so maybe that's a goer. We'll see. We'll see what comes next. I think is.
Oh, absolutely.
It's going to be one of those situations because they've already got a bit of a fan base. So will this alienate that fan base? Will this take them onto another level? Who knows?
I don't know. I mean, you know, my friends who I know were into them sort of when that first album came out. I haven't actually sort of kept up with them, so which is a shame because I was saying, what the hell? I like this band now. Let's go and see them live. And no. But again, it's you know, it's like I was saying with Ollie Ride earlier. For people of our generation who grew up with 80s pop and rock, all of that overblown stuff, big choruses, big theatrics, movies, etc. There's no reason why you shouldn't love this album.
Yeah, completely. So look, you've heard it here. We've been talking about this album all month. We've been really looking forward to getting on here and actually getting the opinion out as well, because it's one thing for us to talk about it, but to get it out there to other people. We urge everybody to listen to it and give it a chance, because if you love big songs, big anthems, I challenge you to not enjoy this album. So there you go. You can come at me on Twitter, Instagram, all of it if you really want to, if you disagree, but listen to it. And if you don't like it, I'll be very surprised. So we'll leave that one there.
Yeah.
I think we'll end things then with your Parisian Walkway. I think we should, shouldn't we?
Oh, we. Yeah, my
and all that.
My French hasn't improved. I mean, I managed over there. Quite frankly, they're all quite nice. They're all talking English rather than let you butcher their language.
So last weekend you went over to Paris the morning after Tailgunner to see the double header of Carpenter Brut and Perturbator.
Yeah, on Monday night. Yeah, so I went over. I got the Eurostar on Saturday lunchtime and got there and pretty much started pissing with rain. So yeah, the point of that was on the Monday night to go and see that double header. I love both artists. I've never been to Paris. It's always eluded me. I've been to France for 30 years. So I thought, oh, well, here's an opportunity to get abroad for the first time in a while. It's easy on the train. Something a bit different as well. I've been to a couple of small gigs when I was in America. Probably saw a couple of pub bands in Sweden, but I've never been to a proper gig, for bands I like elsewhere in another country. And they're both French, pretty much. And I thought it'd be just something a bit special to get to do. Both headlining at a fairly solid venue, which I thought it'd be bigger. In all honesty, they headlined the Olympia Hall, sort of near, I suppose, near the Arc de Triomphe, basically. 2,000 capacity. So that's London.
Yeah, I was surprised at that. I thought it would have been something.
Yeah,
big.
yeah. I was thinking that'd be like Brixton Academy size, but not so much. I mean, they probably could have sold out something a bit bigger, but I don't know. At this point, but it was sold out. And yeah, after a half wet, half cold wander around Paris for a couple of days, including some other things I'll mention. It was dry that night and got there. I got there just in time for Carpenter Brut because I thought doors, it said 8 o'clock on the thing. So I thought doors open at 8, but I can only assume that's when the support band came on and doors opened a bit there because I got in just after 8:30 after the queuing and Carpenter Brut were already set up. And it took me by surprise because I thought it was just going to be a later show over in France because they're much more fluid with that kind of stuff. But no, they, Carpenter Brut came on first just before 9 o'clock and played for an hour. Now, I've seen them about 3 times and there's very little I can say that's anything different to what I've said about this band before. They do the main songs that they know of their history, stuff like Roller Mobster, Turbo Killer, Meet Matt Striker, etc. But they've also got obviously stuff from Leverteeth like Beware the Beast, which goes down well, and the stuff off Leather Terror. So you got the title track itself.
Did they do Lipstick Masquerade?
No,
that's
no. Unfortunately, I think like I say, played for an hour, so I didn't quite have a full set. They did the Day Stalker Night Prowler double header, which always goes down well. Yeah, I love that. I'm terrible with track names actually, but certainly there's Imaginary Fire they do with Greg Puciato on the album. Yeah, Imaginary Fire and the Widowmaker, of course they do. Yeah, so that, yeah, but like I say, decent set, good sound. Obviously, they ended with Maniac, the cover of the Flashdance song, which always kicked off. And that. But the thing is, I was expecting Carpenter Brut to actually headline, just because I think with their vibe and what they do, what he does, compared to Perturbator, which is he's a bit more solo. I don't think he hasn't got the guitarist with him. And I thought he'd be the sort of first up kind of thing. It just felt more appropriate for what they do. But he came on. He had a fairly straight up, straightforward setup with a framework and a inverted star. And you know what? He pulled it off. He pulled the headline set off. He was fucking heavy, really fucking heavy. He had his drummer with him as well. Lots of double pedal throughout the set. So he had stuff off the new album, Lustful Sacraments. I say new, it's a couple of years old now, but yeah, I mean it's a very post-punk / goth kind of take on his synthwave.
How did that work then? Because like you say, that's my favorite Perturbator album, but Carpenter Brut is a lot more upbeat, isn't it, and a lot more sort of full on. So you're right. I would have assumed the same thing, that Carpenter Brut would have been the closing act.
Yeah, it worked. It worked very well, to be fair. I mean, stuff like Excess, blended quite well with the likes of Neo Tokyo. or Humans Are Such Easy Prey.
Yeah.
Yeah, Humans Are Such Easy Prey, which for me was like the highlight. That's when it all kicked off. I think when everyone was going nuts, you know, one of those older tracks. Again, it was heavy as fuck,
Yeah.
and people were dancing. You know, the floor was absolutely shaking for the entire set. But yeah, I was surprised. Don't get me wrong, I love Perturbator, but I just felt for that particular setup, I just felt maybe he would have been better going first before
Yeah.
Carpenter Brut's more party dynamics. But I was wrong, and it was killer, and it was dark, and it was heavy, and yeah, it was. You know, the sound was, like I said, I had the earplugs on. Sound was clear, absolutely clear with those in. And I was a bit further forward for him than I was Carpenter.
Is the concert experience any different in Paris to what it is in the UK?
Overall, no, because concert venues are what they are, really.
Yeah.
I mean, this particular venue, it was quite clean, I have to say. It was very Brixton Academy in terms of a gradual slope going down, but you know, sort of London Astoria narrow.
Yeah.
Because I think they still use it for a seated venue at times. The main bar was one big bar was outside beforehand with a sort of step down section. When you go in and get your sort of tickets checked, you go down a sort of long corridor first where you can actually buy your merch and get all that done beforehand before you get into the sort of opening auditorium with your cloakrooms on your left. Only one big set of toilets, which was on the right, and sadly, because they're right at the front, you pretty much had a huge queue of people trying to get in, which was blocking all access getting forward. So everyone had to go through one narrow line just to get into the bar section and then go into the venue. So, yeah, the organisation there was pretty bloody awful, I have to say. But the rest of it was, you know, quite a pleasant experience. Beer prices, however, not so much. There was a couple of choices. Obviously, you can have some, you know, half sizes or pints, and I think main choice was Turbo Rock, which I've never come across before, so I don't know if that's a European thing. But he had a blonde and an IPA. Pint of blonde was €10.
Fucking hell.
Pint of IPA was €11.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So yeah, but I thought, well, I'm at a gig, and I've got to do it. So I had a pint of blonde for €10 reluctantly. But yeah, I mean, that's more than what we paid for a fucking beer at the O2 for Iron Maiden.
Yeah, and that was bad enough. I mean, it's only slightly more, but it is there or thereabouts. But
yeah.
Merch prices were all right, though, weren't they? Was it €25 for a t-shirt?
€25 for a t-shirt. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit. I got a small. I got the tour t-shirt because I thought it's a bit special, so why not? You know, the double header there. Yeah, €25. I got a small, bit of a loose medium. It felt like, if anything, a little bit baggy, but yeah, it still fits fairly well. So there is that. But yeah, no, it was an honour to see them there on their own turf and do something a bit different. While I was over there, I checked out a couple of the metal venues. So first place I checked out, and I went there a couple of times, was Le Black Dog. So not Le Chat Noir, but Le Black Dog. Yeah, and again, a pint of bet there was €6. So much
more like it. Yeah,
yeah, and that was bang in the middle of, you know, that was in Le Marais. That was right in the centre, just not far from Notre Dame. But yeah, this was I could have had some food there because the menu looked decent, but you know, small crowbar sort of feel, but it felt like it had the sort of vibe and setup of the Intrepid Fox back in the day, you know, with weird things on the walls and stuff and whatnot. You know,
yeah, those were the days.
Yeah, pleasant staff. So, you know, I like that experience, but I couldn't get much of a phone signal. Also checked out a place called Dr. Feelgood, which been recommended. And I stumbled across it again, small crowbar sized, but it felt more like the crowbar this time with all the posters on the wall and the narrowness. They did draft beer, but I had a bottle of something fancy or whatnot, €6 again. Good music, nice and loud, good vibe. Yeah, great. And then it turns out actually there's two venues. There's another one around the corner, which is the big venue, which is a more party venue, which is what's being recommended. So yeah, I thought I'd go to that the following night on the Sunday, but it was shut. Both were shut on the Sunday, which seems to be a thing in a lot of French places actually. And the last thing I checked out was just before the gig on the Monday evening was the Hellfest Club.
Yeah.
which is again there's just around the corner from the Black Dog. Yeah, this was a bit more sterile in terms of look and feel. Yeah, a bit of decoration and whatnot on the walls, but it did feel a little bit more corporate, a bit more basic and whatnot. And of course, they got a shop in the basement, which was shut by the time I popped in there, so I couldn't really check out the vinyl or the books. But yeah, €7 for half a dark Labette. So yeah, not so great, but I could go there again. But
city centre though, isn't it? You know, it's
yeah. That's the thing. It was nice, but pretty much dead in the centre. You had two metal places right there. There's probably other sort of places that are sort of metal friendly as well as Dr. Feelgood on the east side. But yeah, I had to make a point of doing that in principle.
Of course.
I also checked out High Voltage, which was I suppose the only exclusively metal vinyl shop again in Le Marais. Bit of a subdued vibe, but a bit smaller than I was expecting. There's stuff there. I could have spent more money, but again, prices are typical for vinyl, so you're kind of limited, really.
As metal fans, we tend to get fleeced when it comes to vinyl.
That's it. A mix of old and new releases and secondhand and whatnot. Only came away with one thing from that shop, and that was and I got it just because I thought it was €25, and they had it. It would be nice to have. And that was the second album by Still Remains.
Fucking hell, that's obscure.
Yeah. bit of naughties vinyl. I thought, actually, that's not too bad. So,
what was that called? Was that the Serpent or something?
The Serpent, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
one with the synth guitar.
I quite liked their first couple of albums. To be fair,
yeah. Well, that's the only two albums I think they did it back then.
Oh, was it? All right, fair enough.
Yeah, so they split up after, but yeah. The rest of the vinyl experience wasn't great because the couple of shops I also wanted to check out were shut on Sunday and Monday, and those were the only 2 days I properly had. That seems to be a common thing over there. Sundays and Mondays are like their rest days, but that's how it is. And another shop that I could have checked out and was supposed to be open on a Monday morning was still shut by the time I got there, and I walked there in the pissing rain. I thought, no, stop that. You missed your opportunity. Maybe next time. Because what they do have in the Latin Quarter is what I'm referring to as Comics Corner, where there's about 7 or 8 comics / nerdy shops around one junction of American comics and French bande dessinée. And
well, we do need to keep you nerds all in one place if possible.
Exactly, basically, yeah, it's useful. So I had to get there, and yeah, that was fun. Like once my French improves, I have to start buying French comics as well. But I won't go. I won't bring that too much here.
Question is, would you do it again? Would you go to Paris
again? Yes, yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean, because it was a very brief stay and it was pissing it down, as it was for all of us here still.
Yeah.
It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. There's too much to do, too many things to buy. And like I say, when my French improves, I want to go over there and speak and do more and interact and buy more comics and vinyl. So yeah, I do want to get over there again at some point, definitely.
No,
and yeah, people, Brits have got a bit of a chip on my shoulder about the French, but lovely people, all very accommodating and friendly, happy to talk in English. Yeah,
we've got a chip on our shoulder about everybody that's not British.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very true, very true.
So look, there you go. There's heavy metal Wicker's world, I suppose. Next time you go somewhere, then
Jesus, that's aging us.
Yeah, one for the kids, but yeah, look, there you go. That was October. November to come. We're getting towards the end of the year now. We're starting to really sort of think about albums of the year list. It's I'm pretty much there, I think, with my top 20. There might be a couple of others. Today, as we're recording, the new Green Lung album came out, which is I like Green Lung. This is a bit of a shift in direction. Really enjoyed that. And another band, an album came out today that I'd never heard of, called Svartanat. Yeah, Swedish, like fucking Lynyrd Skynyrd, basically. Absolutely loved that. So that might shuffle its way in. But yeah, we're nearly there, aren't we? It's been a strong year for heavy metal. So
yeah, I mean, I've not listened to this many albums ever.
It's been mad. Yeah, it's been absolutely mental.
I mean, I will try and tone it down and try to better identify what is going to appeal to me. Right, but because I've sampled a lot this year, I thought let's listen to a lot. And there's a lot of stuff I've listened to once or twice, given a fair go, and it's not worked out. And I think
And
I'd
that's the
rather,
difference, isn't it? It's those albums that you keep coming back to. Isn't it?
yeah, and I'd rather
and
try
over
and
again.
just stick to songs here and there, and then give albums a proper go once
Yeah.
I think I'm going to like it. I'd rather spend more time listening to less albums,
Yeah.
and potentially have a top 100 that I'm really happy with, rather than listen to 300 albums and manage to get a top 40 because I haven't listened to.
There's probably stuff that we've missed over the year that you could love. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's been very much like that.
So time, that's the thing, and it's just limited for time. So
yeah, it is. But we are getting there. We got probably 2 or 3 more episodes left before we get to our end of year show. Next week we'll be back as normal. We're going to rank the Sepultura albums, so that'll be quite interesting because anybody who's been listening to this before, whenever Sepultura come up, Padre's almost very much it's all about the Max Cavalera era Sepultura, but the Derek Green era Sepultura, it's been around for 25 years now, so it's very much a part of it. So
bang on
25 years. So that'll be an interesting one. And then the week after that, we've got a guest that we're very excited about, but we'll talk about that a little bit closer to the time because that's going to be a lot of fun. That one, really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So, Until then, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week. Stay metal.